Hey guys, my name's Hayden Matthews. I recently competed at the Brisbane Pokemon TCG Regionals on the weekend. I placed in the top 16. I'm very unfortunate to miss out on top 8. It was literally came down to the last round, which I happened to draw in a winning position. I was very unlucky. But overall, my first ever Pokemon event, finishing in the top 16 means good prizes and everything, so I thought it did really well. I'm filming this deck profile on behalf of Sage, who's allowing me to use his YouTube channel to upload my deck. So thanks a lot for that, bud. A couple of shout outs before I start and show the deck list. Shout out to all the boys at GLM, obviously. All the people at Good Games, that's my local store, Brisbane and Strathpine. Massive shout out to my wife and my 2 baby girls. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to play these events, so I always appreciate that. And also just another special mentions to Jarks and Josh, who were helping me with this list, even though we built it last minute, because we didn't get much time to test properly. Their input was obviously very helpful as well. So we'll get into the deck now. So as you can see, it's Arceus Inteleon, but instead of playing the Water Engine with Melanie, I opted to play the Dark Energy package and the one fighting for a different attacker. So we have a 4-3 Arceus line. Obviously, you want to lead it as much as possible and always have it in play. The Sobble Engine, I like to trim the Drizzile down to 3. Obviously, if I can fit the 4th, I always try to. But the logic of playing 3 is that I really don't like drawing Evolution Pokemon in my opening hand. You already have 3 with Arceus, which is obviously a good one to have as a follow-up. But when you start playing multiple evolution lines and drawing the evolutions instead of the basics, your hand starts to do much less and nothing. So I always prefer to trim the Drizzile if I can. Obviously, if I can fit the 4th and it works well with the deck, I'll keep it. But trimming the 3rd Drizzile, it never came up the whole tournament, so I never had an issue. I played the 2 Shady Dealings Inteleons for consistency. The Ping Inteleon didn't really come up for any damage thresholds that I was worried about hitting. Most of the time, you're 2-shotting everything anyway. And any deck that you can 1-shot, you can probably 2-shot and use Sharon's Care to get around it anyway, so I didn't think it came up that much. The original list just played the Moltres as the revenge killer, essentially. Going into this event, I knew Mew was the best deck, and I knew I should have played it. The problem was I wasn't as confident in the mirror against some of the top players, so I didn't want to go into a tournament where there's like almost 0 chance I win the tournament if I verse one of them and don't know how to win the mirror. So I played this deck, which obviously has a dark Pokemon in it, but the way this matchup falls out is very favorable for this deck. I think I versed 4 Mew throughout the weekend and I lost to 1 because I bricked twice. That happened to be Natalie, who also won the event, so shout out to her as well for winning. But it was the only person I lost to, and every other matchup was a 2-0 except for the last round, which ended in a draw, but I had game with 1 extra turn. So the Mew matchup is very favorable, especially if your opponent isn't a highly skilled player, like someone that's just learning the deck as well. It's very hard for them to play around this card. We put the Zapdos in after like the first deck. We changed it slightly to fit the Zapdos in. It was overperformed the whole time. Against Gengar and E-Turn, it fixes that matchup because they can obviously 1-shot the player and Sharon's Care, but having this to Revenge Kill to take the prize trade back on your favor is very favorable. Also in the mirror match, it comes up a bit as well. Obviously the pure mirror, they play the Dunsparce, so you have to play really smart with that, but in a normal different mirror match with Arceus or before they get the Dunsparce down, taking the KO with 1-shot with this before they can 2-shot yours, it just puts you ahead in the prize trade whether you go first or second. It gives you a massive advantage. So that's the Pokemon line. For the Ball Search, just a 4-4-4 Level Ball Incensed Quick Ball. The Ultra Balls were the late inclusion to the deck right before we submitted. We just wanted more outs to Pokemon because one of the weaknesses of the deck is if you don't have the Sobble line or the Arceus set up turn 1, so you lose it, basically just be another turn behind. When Mew exists, it's really hard. Obviously, this gives you a comeback later just in case that does happen, but you want that to happen as little as possible. Plus, there's also another out to Arceus V-Star after turn 1. Overall, it was good. That was actually Jarks who mentioned to put this in at the last minute. Overall, I don't regret it. It was good. But obviously, there's after the tournament, I've learned a lot of things about the deck now that I've tested it properly and know what changes I would make. And Ultra Ball, discarding the 2 cards actually hurts sometimes as well. The switching options, I originally had 3 Scoop Up Net, but we found if we lead this sometimes against Mew, you want to put energy on the bench one. So if they don't take a knockout, you're kind of stuck. So you wanted to have at least 1 switching out to actually get out of the active. Also, if you lead the Zapdos, you don't want it to get stuck there and waste an energy attachment to have to retreat. So this switch actually came up a lot for me instead of the 3rd net. I do like net in general, but 2 is plenty as long as you don't prize them both. For energy outs, we play the 1 Energy Search. It's mainly for the late game setup with Moltres or just guaranteeing the fighting energy with Zapdos. Because the whole deck searches everything, 1 Energy Search is fine. If you happen to miss it, then the V-Star can grab the energy anyway. I originally had 2 Retrieval, but again, when we had to fit Ultra Ball, Jarks mentioned to drop this. I agreed, we did it. It didn't come up the whole event. 2 was probably too much, but overall, I like the card. It just helps you set this up. In Training Call, it's basically an out to path for if they turn 1 path to make sure you push this through, but also it gives you access to your energy to help with this play and setting up Zapdos. Most lists didn't play the Choice Belt in the pure Arceus build. I think it's very relevant because 210 with Arceus V-Star has to be the threshold, because if you only have 180, you can't kill most Vs except for Mew and maybe like the support Pokemon like Crobat, Lumineon. But if you have the belt, that means it gives you the option to also take out Genesect and Ice Rider Vs and Suicunes and all those sort of things. Like obviously without the Zigzagoon in my deck, I didn't have the out to this a V with the 210, but it actually didn't come up that much in the matchup. For supporters, I played a 2-1 Research Marnie line for draw support. I wanted more in there, originally did have more in there, because when you get Marnie, it kind of sets you back if you don't have access to all of your engine. So you just want draw support to get your engine going and get everything going. The supporters that like pretty much help you win the game with Boss's Orders and Sharon's Care. I would have liked more Boss's Orders over the weekend, but overall you can play to what you have. Prizing a boss makes it really hard sometimes, but you can use the Sharon's Care to give you extra turns. I really love this card, like resetting an Arceus V-Star, adding back Dark Energy to hand to set up Moltres. You can also grab the Turbo and set up a second attacker, setting up Zapdos and getting this out of the active. It's basically another switching card and a healing card in the same card. Then we had Clara for the late game, bringing this back. And also, the main thing I used Clara for actually was bringing the Sobble line back and setting it up again. So when you have to discard with Ultra Ball, it doesn't punish you as badly if you've lost the cards, because you can just Clara them back anyway. And obviously Raihan, because we don't play Melanie, because it's not a water deck, you still want a way to attack from no energy after turn 1. 4 double turbo, consistency, you just want to open it so that when you V-Star, they think you got it, but if you've already got it, they don't know, so you get an extra card. And then the 5-1 energy line was fine. After one Arceus attack, you start getting pretty low, depending how many you've prized. But because of Sharon's Care being able to bring them back, Retrieval, Clara, you're never not doing this, and that's basically the whole point of the deck, is you always want to be able to do this against every matchup, especially Mew. So that was the deck overall. A lot of changes I would make. Obviously, got an invitational on Tuesday, so if I do well in that, I'll post the new list up that I end up making. But overall, yeah, thanks for that. It was a great event. It was well run. It's good to be back playing at competitive events again. Even though I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, playing Pokemon now is a lot more fun at the moment. So yeah, keen to see you guys at Melbourne and hopefully some more deck profiles.